Okay, welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us today. I hope your spring is going well. We have Neil from Washtenaw Literacy who's going to present on their programs. Go ahead, Neil.
All right. Well, thank you so much for having me. My name is Neil Steichen. I'm a program coordinator for Washtenaw Literacy. I've been working with the organization for just about a year now. I oversee all of our basic literacy programs, as well as our New Pages program, which is a special focus on returning citizens who've been previously incarcerated, as well as our special jail tutoring program, where twice a week we go in with a group of volunteers and actually tutor within the county jail. Um, Thank you so much for allowing me to speak here and kind of give you an introduction, not only to Washtenaw literacy, but our different sorts of programs, how we operate, and any options that we have if you have any interested volunteers or individuals you think might need some of our services. First to get off, as everyone here is well aware, there's a lot of challenges in the situation of literacy in the country right now. It's become particularly relevant in the news as of late. But here are just some quick facts that really illustrate the problem pretty deeply. On a national level, 20% of US citizens are unable to fill out job applications unassisted, um, which is obviously a major challenge if someone is trying to overcome various challenges in terms of income and their general well-being. Um, on top of that, we have 70% of incarcerated individuals having low literacy levels. We also know that people with low literacy in the correctional system have higher recidivism rates. So it really becomes a compounding problem. Furthermore, the situation compounds generationally. 50% of children born to parents with low literacy levels will also have low literacy levels for a variety of reasons that also contribute to each other, but just about a coin flip. Looking at it on a more localized level, um, about 14% of adults in the county, which is approximately 40,000. It can vary a little bit depending on what resources and years you're using. Um, but About 14% of adult residents in Washtenaw County are at or below the federal definition of literate. That's not an explicit grade level scale, but that's defined as being able to read, write, um, communicate, problem solve, think critically at a level to indicate success personally and publicly in terms of career. At Washtenaw Literacy, we generally define that rate at or below an eighth grade competency of reading and writing. But when we talk about these really big numbers, it can be hard to kind of conceptualize what all this entails. Um, 40,000, roughly speaking, is about the population of the entire city of Ypsilanti. Um, Now, of course, that's spread across the whole county, including Ann Arbor and several other towns. Um, but when you consider it's that magnitude of folks and all the things that literacy can entail, people being unable to read and understand prescription medication instructions, mentioned already jobs, applications, but more so than that, it's also being able to fill out any sort of general paperwork, especially to get access to other resources, being able to sign up for housing, apply for rent agreements, being able to understand any sorts of contracts, reading and understanding voting ballots, and even much more simple things, being able to read a map, communicate, to understand what's coming in your own mail, uh, or even simply something that's more of a family activity, being able to read stories books to your children or grandchildren for before bedtime. These are all immense hurdles that people with literacy challenges will find themselves struggling with, but also will go to quite extensive lengths to hide. They'll find different ways to mask these challenges, to rely on other family members, um, anything to circumvent really confronting the challenge because it's just so pervasive and something many of us take for granted. So briefly, I just want to read our mission statement here and then just kind of discuss what that all entails. Um, Washtenaw Literacy partners with adult learners to develop their skills and pursue their goals by providing free literacy support through a network of trained volunteer tutors. So first, I want to highlight that line. We partner with adult learners. We don't use a teacher-student dichotomy. Um, Primarily because when working with adults, regardless of what kind of education level they've received in the past, a lot of them they're coming with their whole lived life experiences already. Um, we don't know in what entirely that entails. So we want to make sure we're partnering with them to develop the skills they're highlighting that they need assistance with, help them achieve the goals they're interested in achieving, whether that's something long-term and complex like earning a GED or their own citizenship, or something much more simple like reading stories to their kids. All of our literacy support is free. Um, we do not take any federal or state level grants. Or funding rather. Uh, all of our it's the vast majority of it is funded by individual contributions and grants. All of our programs are free, meaning as long as a learner lives, works, volunteers, or takes classes within Washtenaw County, they're eligible for our services. Um, and then finally, we do train all of our volunteers. We do trainings 3 times a year. I'll talk about that a little bit briefly later on in the presentation as far as that goes. Also, as far as our values, we believe that literacy is a basic human right and the foundation for an equitable, inclusive, and thriving community. Um, while it's become very controversial today, Washtenaw Literacy has been doing DEI work since it was founded in 1971. Um, the entire concept of being able to bring people in from diverse backgrounds, recognize that, and try to provide them with the tools that will help them to access the wider world is really the foundation of what we do. Literacy is a key to opening a world of opportunities, whether that's in their personal family life, their education, or within their local community at work and beyond that as well. Looking at some of our success from our last programming year, um, we were able to serve just over 1,000 learners, um, which has been fantastic. We did take a bit of a hit in terms of how many people we were able to serve in the years after COVID, but we've really recovered a lot and kind of developed, changed focuses. We've offering new opportunities, which I'll also touch on, to really serve people wherever they may be in the county. Um, we're seeing a division of about 2/3 of our learners being ESL learners. Um, very large immigrant community here in southeastern Michigan. Um, and we have many people who take advantage of our services. About 1/3 of our services are for basic literacy, which kind of encompasses our native speakers. Um, and as I mentioned, all of our work is done by focusing on learner-specific goals when we first meet with individuals. Regardless of the program, we ask them some basic questions, but primarily, what are they interested in achieving? What are they hoping to do? And depending on what that is, we start working on a roadmap to get them to their destination. And among those surveyed, 100% were able to achieve at least 3 of their goals, which is a accomplishment we're very proud of. And finally, we're just shy of 400 active volunteer tutors. Our volunteers are the lifeblood of Washtenaw Literacy. They're the reason we're really able to, so to speak, punch above our weight class when it comes to doing this work. Looking at purely at our staff numbers, we're one of the smallest literacy organizations in the state of Michigan. But in terms of people served and our volunteers, were the largest. Um, so it really, the ability for so many people from different walks of life being able to volunteer their time to assist us in our mission have really made this a wonderful community organization. Um, In addition to trying to serve as many people as possible, we've been working really hard to remove as many barriers as possible to get people to attend our programs. As I mentioned before, there's a lot of reasons why someone with low literacy skills may not be interested in pursuing that or may have difficulty pursuing that. Shame, of course, being one of them, and having those challenges, coming to terms with just admitting they need assistance. There's so many other aspects, especially with people in terms of low income backgrounds, that I'm sure everyone here is very familiar with. Struggling with transportation, childcare, navigating work schedules. All of these things uh, create a number of hurdles for our literacy work. So we do our best to try to create as many options as possible. Pictured here are a number of locations we meet at. As I mentioned at the top here, twice a week we meet at the county jail for those learners, but we also meet at libraries in Ann Arbor and Ypsilanti across the county, as well as the Superior Branch Library for Ypsilanti. Um, we also just started hosting a new session um, at Dawn Farm for it's open to the public, both but also to their clients. Um, so we're all over. Also, we have many virtual options available. Virtual tutoring is one of our most popular options, especially for ESL learners. 4 days a week, we have those sessions available. So anyone who is interested in learning and speaking English can do so from the privacy and comfort of their own home. And I also want to especially highlight when we're talking about literacy, though reading and writing is definitely a core aspect of it, it's not the only aspect of it. Um, Often called numeracy, we're talking about basic understanding and recognition of math skills. A lot of the times that ends up looking like being able to set a basic budget for your household, able to understand some basic math to maybe assist a sibling, a child with their homework, or things that happen in their daily lives, like being able to duplicate recipes for a larger family event. Um, Also, digital literacy, which is becoming a huge demand for a lot of our learners we're seeing. Um, in the modern age, whether you're looking for work, education, whatever it is, interfacing with technology is almost essential. Um, Without it, it's incredibly difficult. So we also provide digital literacy tutoring. Right now, we have a program every Friday at the Whitaker branch of the Ypsilanti District Library from noon to 2, where we will work with people on the computers provided in the computer lab, or if they want to bring their own devices, laptops, tablets, phones. Where we can, help educate people on the basics of operating, how to turn on a computer, how to navigate through something like Microsoft Word or Google Docs, how to navigate file systems, how to print, things again, a lot of folks take for granted. But without those core skills, uh, people are at a tremendous disadvantage when navigating our current society. Um, to take a closer look at some of our programs, they fall broadly under sort of three umbrellas. We have our personal tutoring programming. Um, Personal, not necessarily meaning one-on-one, but more in terms of being personalized. Um, Oftentimes with basic literacy, we are able to set up a one-on-one situation, but since we have a larger number of ESL learners, that'll sometimes take the form of a small group of maybe 2 or 3 learners with one tutor, depending. But with personal tutoring, we seek to pair people up based on their stated goals with tutors who are trained and comfortable in those skills so that they can meet on their own schedule that's organized between them at a public place that they're comfortable in so that they can work towards their goals on their schedule. Currently, I'm sad to say that we've had to pause adding any more people to our personal tutoring program just because we don't have enough volunteers to fulfill new requests. We are about to go through another of our trainings um, in June, so hopefully we will be able to open that up with an influx of new volunteers so that we can continue fulfilling that because it's a very popular program and one that we're planning on continuing. For volunteers, we do ask them to have a 6-month commitment to those learners just to maintain that level of consistency. Um, After that, we also have our community tutoring programs. These take place at a predetermined public location, at a predetermined time. Um, and again, it usually ends up being small groups, but depending on how many folks come to attend and how many volunteer tutors are available, that may look like small groups or it may be even one-on-one if possible. Um, and as I mentioned, that takes place all across the county in various libraries, in churches, other religious organizations, different, any number of community meetup places. And those will every once in a while kind of rotate depending on how we see attendance. We always try to go where our learners are and what's most convenient for them. It's also a drop-in, so there's no paperwork that's required previously. If someone's available to attend there, all they need to do is show up. And finally, we have our special programs. As I've mentioned, our jail program already. We also have Prep 100. It's a program we do in collaboration with Washtenaw Community College. Um, WCC has a lot of folks who are really interested in earning their GED. Very popular program. However, not everyone who signs up for it is ready for that rigorous level of work when to get into that program. Um, so, in partnership with them, we've set up Prep 100, which is a sort of pre-GED preparation course. So, people with lower literacy skills who need to practice and work their way up to getting into that GED program, they have a place to do that where they're not rushed and can work more personally with tutors. We also have our Beginners Club, our ESL program, which is primarily focused on people who have very, very little English skills, if any at all, so that they can develop that in a place with peers and slowly develop their confidence to potentially move up to one of our more advanced groups at community tutoring or through our virtual tutoring as well. Also, recently, this past semester, we began an all women's ESL program located, I forgetting the name at the moment, but it's at a campus of a near the campus of a local mosque, I believe on Ford Boulevard. Um, which has been very popular as well. We're seeing great attendance there for those ESL learners. So we have all sorts of special programs. And as we're able to, sometimes we also have other sorts of special programs emerge here and there throughout the year. Um, and looking at all of these umbrellas of between personal, community, and our special programming, um, we serve local adults, as I've mentioned, and all of our programs have basic literacy and ESL learners. All of these programs have some level of in-person or virtual options. And all of our programming does require tutor training, which is free as well. I believe I'll touch on that on the next slide. Um, we also have a wonderful team of mentors, people who have been tutors before, but also many who've before that been learners themselves to help contribute to this idea of community, of continued growth, to really give insight and advice to our volunteers, as well as touch base with some of our learners as they work towards their goals. Um, and of course, like I've mentioned before, all of our programs are learner driven and goal oriented. We don't try to preach or follow strict curriculums. We want to just help people achieve what they are seeking to do. Um, Oh, so if you're interested in referring someone who you believe might need our services, you can always check out our calendar and flyers for active sessions. If you go to our website, washtenauliteracy.org, this link will also work in the saved slideshow put on the Barrier Busters website. If you just scroll down to the bottom of our page, you'll find our current semester flyers link. Click that, and you'll be brought to a resource page that'll have all of our active flyers. We update that every semester. So if you're looking for whatever's being offered at any given time throughout the year, just go there and you'll see exactly where, when uh, those sessions are being provided. All of our community tutoring sessions are drop-in. We do have small registration forms just for some basic contact information, um, but there is no need to register beforehand. Um, Currently, I am having a sort of meet and greet session every other Tuesday at Michigan Works just to see if there's any foot traffic of people who, might see and think about our services, just to give a point of contact if anyone's interested in talking without being able to go to a session themselves. Um, but even without that, you can just drop it. Our virtual tutoring sessions do require a registration to receive a Zoom link, but our new policy is that we no longer ask for any personal information. We make it clear in our registration form that people can leave a pseudonym if they feel much more comfortable that way. We want to make sure, again, there's as few barriers as possible to attending our tutoring sessions. As far as personal tutoring goes, there is a bit more in-depth screening process due to its personalized nature. So generally, the learner and the tutor prospectively will meet with a staff member at Washtenaw Literacy to discuss meeting time and place, along with what they're planning on working on. And again, we are hoping for a 6-month commitment with that to keep that interaction going. And finally, you can always feel free to contact us. We know that education in any form is not one size fits all. That's one of the reasons we exist. And if you know someone who might need our services, but you're not quite sure what would work best for them, feel free to contact us. And one of our staff members will be able to get in touch with you and talk about their options. Um, and here's where we'll speak about training briefly. Um, the first step is signing up for our ABCs of Washtenaw Literacy session. Um, that is also available on our website. It's linked here. But if you just go to our main page and click Become a Tutor, you'll be brought to the page where you'll see options for both in-person and virtual sessions for ABCs, along with a pre-recorded version if none of those predetermined sessions are viable for you. All of our tutors are encouraged to complete our core training, which takes about 16 hours, divided also a bit between basic literacy training and ESL training. Um, that way, when someone completes that, they're able to essentially volunteer for any program that needs it the most. But we also have, it's also a variety of training. Some of it is in person. This June will actually be at WISD starting next week. We also have some virtual sessions and self-paced trainings. Our trainings are also available to be seen on our website if you go to our resources page. However, if someone is only interested in volunteering for one specific program, um, they're able to do one of our quick start methods, which is a much shorter training between 4 and 15 hours, depending on what program it is. Um, Obviously, the pro is that it'll be a much shorter time between jumping right in to volunteering. However, it is far less flexible if you decide you want to pivot to something else. We also have a lot of volunteer opportunities for non-tutoring folks. We're always looking for people to assist us in terms of, as it's all listed here, things like data entry or event planning. Believe we're also actively looking for a photographer for various events. But we have all sorts of opportunities available. And if we don't have one right now, we're always just looking to have more people on standby to reach out. Um, it is a major community effort to make Washtenaw literacy work the way that it does. Um, and it's been continuing to go strong after over 50 years. Um, all right, so that is everything I have. So I'm happy to open it up to questions. I'll stop my screen share here. Um, I see there's a question in the chat. Um, oh, Joanne, I'm not sure. Here, I can even look up the exact location for our ESL program. For Kristen, can you receive individual virtual tutoring sessions for digital literacy, or is it only the drop-in sessions at Whitaker? Um, I'm not currently aware of anyone receiving personal individual tutoring for digital literacy. I think it's a possibility. The challenge with that being if someone needs digital literacy help, meeting virtually might provide some challenges in terms of like troubleshooting. Um, but depending on their skill level or what they're looking at, that could be a possibility.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Um,
I
well,
have a
I'm
quick
looking.
question.
Yes, please.
Thank you, Neil. So years ago, pre-pandemic, Washtenaw Literacy had a computer lab that was available on Harris and Ipsy. Is that still available?
And Harrison. Um, no, I don't believe it is. Um, you said that was provided by Washtenaw Literacy?
Yeah, but I mean, that was years ago. That was probably like spearheaded 2018. Okay. Just
Okay.
curious. I know that it's incredibly helpful to send folks your way for digital literacy around connecting older adults for help with smartphones. So it
Hmm.
sounds like the best way to do that without the computer lab would be Fridays at Whitaker between 12 and 2.
Yes, yeah, definitely. We have lots of people who come in with phone support needs. We're not professional troubleshooters, so if it's a major problem, we can try our best to kind of assist them with that. But things like navigating them, trying to understand how they're operating, if they're running slow, or if you don't know how to use certain apps, those are all things that are well within our wheelhouse. Our tutors, many of them are proficient with both Android and Apple devices. So whoever's available can kind of jump in and see what they need assistance with.
Thank you very much.
Mhm.
Okay, does anyone else have any questions? You can unmute or put it in the chat. Okay. Do you, Neil, want to just, I know we all like to have, can you put your, in the chat, put in your email or phone number?
Yes,
Have
absolutely.
it there. We'll, of course, have your slides on our website with your information in the website link on our Barrier Buster website as well. Okay.
And yes, Joanna, to answer your question, it is that location. It's not directly on the campus. The actual address, I think, is 315 South Ford Boulevard. So I think it's like right next door, but generally that's the direction we tell people to go. All right. Thank you so much, everyone, for having me.
Yeah, thank you for this presentation. Oh, one thing that I wanted to mention, if you have a flyer or information to share for the listserv on, you said June, there's volunteer training. So if you have something specific there, please send it to me and I'll put it on, or you can post it on the listserv so we know for those of us that have some time to commit for volunteering.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Next on our agenda is Kara from SOS. Kara, I saw you come in.
I'm here. Yeah.
Hey there. So
Hello.
if you are ready to go ahead, go ahead and share your screen and get us started.
Are you able to share I'm not on my computer because I'm in the
I can do
office
it.
today. Are you
Yeah,
able to pull up my PowerPoint?
I do. I have it right here. That's
Thank
why I
you.
always ask for it before the meeting
I
so I can
know.
do backup just in case. So nope, I got you here. And then so then I will share my screen and you just tell me next slide.
Okay, perfect.
All right, let's see. Let's get this going here.
And hi, everyone. Nice to see all of you.
Does that work for you? Does that work for everyone here? Oh, sorry. I always forget to hit that last bit, that share spot. There we go.
Can everyone see?
I
Yep.
can move
Okay,
it
perfect.
here.
All
Move it
right.
up
Well,
there.
thanks for having me. My name is Kara Painter. I'm the Coordinated Entry Supervisor, SOS Community Services. So our HARA, or Housing Assessment and Resource Agency here in Washtenaw County, is a little different because it is split up among 3 different agencies now. So the call center is at the Office of Community and Economic Development. Individual assessments are done at the Delana Center, and SOS handles homeless family assessments, all homeless prevention for both individuals and families, and shelter diversion for families. So those are the 3 programs that I am going to talk about with you today. Next slide, please. So starting with homeless family assessments and kind of looking at some eligibility criteria. So this is going to be any households in Washtenaw County who have minor children under the age of 18 or a current pregnancy. They must be physically currently in Washtenaw County. And they must meet the HUD Category 1 definition. This is not something that we came up with here in our community. It is a HUD definition that we are required to follow in order to receive funding. And so while we know that this is not ideal and that it's really reactive and not proactive, it is something that the call center and we are required to follow when doing homeless family assessments. And that's that the household must currently be staying in a primary nighttime residence that is a public or private place not meant for human habitation. So that could be outside, a car, an abandoned building, anything where humans aren't meant to live. It could also be a hotel that's paid for by an agency, and that is the key point. Because if a client is paying for a hotel, or an acquaintance or a friend or family member is paying for that hotel, they're not considered HUD Category 1. We know they have a precarious housing situation, but they don't yet meet that criteria of being HUD Category 1 homeless. And then there's some other caveats in here about if they're in an institutional setting, which is kind of confusing. And I'm not going to get into the weeds of that, but if you ever have questions about it, you can feel free to reach out to me. Next slide, please. So how does someone get a family shelter assessment? The process is that every household who is in a housing crisis or experiencing homelessness should call the HOT call center first. That's that 734-961-1999 number that you hear about all the time. They should call that number. The HOT call center staff screens the household for eligibility. So they're assessing whether they meet the criteria for an appointment. And if they do, they schedule them an appointment with the staff here at SOS through a shared calendar. And then that homeless assessment is completed over the phone with SOS staff within 24 to 48 hours. And we have maintained that 24 to 48 hour appointment time for probably the last year now. So we take a lot of pride in that. We have homeless family assessments typically within 24 to 48 hours, but sometimes even same day, just depending on how booked up we are. And then once we complete that assessment, then their information gets added to a prioritization list, and they're instructed to call into the HOT call center 1 time per week to update their living situation. So if you're wondering about homeless programs like Rapid Rehousing, Avalon Housing, Shelter, other homeless programs for families, It's not SOS making the decision about who gets those programs. There's actually a committee that does that. It's called CHIP. It stands for Community Housing Prioritization. And it's a group of housing providers that meet bi-monthly, and they're the ones, they have kind of like bylaws that they follow, and they're making decisions on prioritization about who gets what resource. So it's not SOS and it's not the hot call center. We're just the ones assessing for eligibility, completing the assessment, and adding them to that by name list. Next slide, please. Okay, so documentation for homeless family assessments. There is no required documentation for family shelter assessments. Oh, uh-oh. Someone's like unmuted. Okay, here we go. That confused me. Okay, so there's no required documentation, none. So if they're missing documents like ID, things like that, it doesn't matter. We will still complete the assessment no matter what. But what is helpful for us to have, and again, it's not required, but it's just helpful, is for the household who is experiencing homelessness to have a letter verifying their homeless situation prior to or after the appointment. And it would include all the information that you see on the screen. It's written by a third-party provider on agency letterhead, includes information about the client and the relationship with the client, and it has to specifically state where they're sleeping at night, how long they've been sleeping there, and that they're currently in Washtenaw County, and then signed and dated by the person writing it. So again, it's not required, but it's helpful because oftentimes when a client is selected for a resource, this letter will become required by HUD. Next slide, please. Okay, so limitations. Homeless family resources are almost never immediately available, and it can often be several weeks to several months before we can match a family with the resource. The last average that I was hearing from the call center was about 5 to 6 months or longer for a resource currently. And so unfortunately, there's just not anything immediately available. And then households that are doubled up or couch surfing are not eligible for homeless family assessment. And again, we recognize that they're still in a precarious housing situation and probably need supports and assistance, but we can't do the family assessment if they're doubled up. And then households from out of county are not eligible for a homeless family assessment in this county. We kind of, as you're seeing, we don't have enough resources for the folks that are currently in our community experiencing homelessness. And so if a household were to call and be in a different county, we would divert them back to the county that they're in. Next slide, please. And then moving on to homeless prevention, which is going to more commonly be known as eviction prevention. So it's that one-time financial assistance to help someone who's currently facing an eviction with their rental arrears, or to help folks who are doubled up or experiencing homelessness with a security deposit and first month's rent. And the income guidelines for this really depend on the funding that we have available to us. And the funding we currently have access to is 30% of area median income. That's what we're screening off of, or the call center screening off of. The consumer must be in eviction proceedings. So that means at minimum, they have a court summons and complaint. And so that is going to be so what happens is, I'm not going to go through the entire eviction process, but if you ever want to know it, you can give me a call. But the clients usually will get a demand for possession or notice to quit, which is that 7-day notice first. And then if the rent still isn't paid, they would get served a court summons and complaint. So it's the first official, that summons and complaints is the first official eviction document. And that is what is required at minimum for a consumer to receive an appointment. And that's just because of lack of funding availability. We just don't have enough funds to help everyone. So we have to prioritize those who are most in need. The household obviously must reside in Washtenaw County. Any and all adults must be screened. Some funding requires that a household's unit passes a habitability inspection, but not all funding does. It just depends on which funding we are using. And any funding we provide to a consumer must be able to resolve their entire ledger balance. So we're not necessarily just looking at what they need for a judgment. So like, they might need $2,000 to pay off a judgment, but on their current running ledger, they owe $3,000. We want to bring that ledger balance down to zero, because what happens if we don't, then the next month they're going to be right back in that crisis. and it's not necessarily preventing them from being evicted, which ultimately at the end of the day is what we want. They must also be able to sustain their rent moving forward. So we're really loose on this. We don't have like a set formula that we follow. We just, kind of looking if someone doesn't have income and no prospects at all for obtaining income, and they don't have $0 rent, then unfortunately we wouldn't move forward, because again, the next month they're going to be right back in the same situation, and we just don't have the funding to continually assist someone with rental arrears. Next slide, please. And so the process for prevention is very similar to family assessments. The household calls Hawk. They screen for eligibility and schedule an appointment through a shared calendar. And then we complete that appointment over the phone. And during that appointment, we're requesting documents from the consumer, and we'll also reach out to their landlord as well and request documents. So I can go over the documents, I think, in the next slide that we typically would ask for, but that's kind of what's happening in the appointment. And then the entire process takes typically 1 to 2 weeks, but we like to do it faster than that if we can, because we ultimately are hoping to prevent evictions, but it's kind of like a lot of it is waiting on documents. So if a consumer can get us their documents right away and the landlord gives us the documents right away, we can do the funding request quickly. But if we're waiting on documents, that's usually what the holdup is. Next slide, please. So some common document, again, these are going to depend based on the funding source, because every funding source, we have multiple that we use, and they require different documentation, but common documents that we would ask for would be the lease and ledger from the landlord. We want to make sure the client has protection, so they have a lease in place. We also want to look at the ledger, and we're not just necessarily looking at it and being like, okay, looks great. We actually go through those ledgers with a fine-tooth comb and look to see if there are issues, because sometimes there are, and then we need to refer clients to legal services when we see something on a ledger that doesn't look right. So it's not just taking a landlord's word that this is how much they owe. We're actually going through it line by line and looking at what's owed and making sure that it looks correct, that what's owed is actually what's owed, because sometimes it's not. And then, of course, you want to see proof of income 30 days consecutive within a 60-day window for each adult on the lease. Housing termination documents, which again is minimum court summons and complaint, but also a judgment or a writ. Writs are a little more difficult because they're very time sensitive, and we can't always resolve a client situation before a writ is executed. We want a W-9 from the landlord because we want to verify that they actually own the property, that we're not just paying some random person who's trying to get money from us. We hope that doesn't happen, but we're always verifying ownership to make sure they legitimately own the property. And then some funding streams require that clients apply for the state emergency relief, the SER, through DHHS, but not all of them do. So just heads up about that. Next slide, please. Some limitations. Appointment times can vary depending on the time of the year. So sometimes the year are busier than others. I'm really proud and happy to say that right now we're booking same week for appointments, and that's never happened before since I've supervised these programs. So we're very proud and happy for that, because it's a goal that we've worked really, really hard to meet over like the last 2 years. Our goal has been same week appointments, and we're within that window now. Another limitation, our timeline doesn't always work with the client's timeline. So if they call Hawk and they have a writ, for example, which is kind of like that actual final eviction notification where, they have 24 to 40 hours to be out of the unit before the physical eviction would happen. So we can't always get things done before that. Our timeline doesn't always work with the client's timeline, but we try really hard to resolve every eviction, and we are hustling out here running checks if we have to, but we sometimes just can't get it done before the physical eviction happens. And a lot of it depends on the landlord's willingness to work with us too. Some landlords are very willing, they know us, they trust us, and if the client's working with us, they're like, we'll hold off on scheduling it until you can get the funding together, but others are like, nope, it's scheduled on this date. So funding availability is really limited. So currently households are eligible for $2,000 per household in prevention funding, and $3,000 if the household's rent is subsidized or falls within fair market rent. And they must minimum have a court summons and complaint to be eligible for rental assistance. We've talked about that. Next slide. Okay. Shelter diversion. This shelter diversion is my baby. I'm really passionate about this. So as we talked about when we were focused on homeless family assessments, there's never immediate shelter space or homeless resources available in this community. And so problem solving is really, really important because we want to keep families and children safe and keep them off of the street, out of cars. So it involves thinking outside of the box. So that's where we turn to shelter diversions. It's an intervention designed to immediately address the needs of someone who has just lost their housing and become homeless or has recently entered shelter within the last 30 days. It's a client-driven approach, and its goal is to help the household find safe alternative housing immediately rather than entering the shelter system or experiencing unsheltered homelessness. It's intended to ensure that the homeless experience is as brief as possible, and to prevent unsheltered homelessness and avert stays in shelter. Next slide, please. And so it is an intensive service intervention, and it involves interactive problem-solving conversations. So we're looking to understand what caused a person's housing crisis in that conversation, because that helps us determine what barriers they might have to obtaining housing of their own. And explore what immediate solutions to the crisis may be possible and help them pursue a solution. So that might be a negotiated return to their previous housing, short-term non-shelter accommodation, apartments or homes, or like relocation to stay with family. And yeah, we're asking open-ended questions designed to help the client, take control of their own situation. I think when clients are experiencing a crisis, there's many times where they feel out of control, like they don't have control over anything. And so the goal is to empower the client, to shift the power back to them, to let them take control over their situation and be their problem solver. And we're just there to kind of guide the conversation and encourage shelter diversion to happen, but ultimately they're the ones leading the conversation. Next slide, please.
I just want to apologize real quick. My second screen here has a mind of its own, and I need to get a new one. So that's why it goes black. I'm restarting it. Sorry.
No worries. Okay, so eligible activities under shelter diversion, any costs associated with move-in, like security deposit, first month's rent. We can do family, friend, landlord mediation. We could do relocation assistance, vehicle repair if they need it to continue employment or to transport themselves to a destination, and much more. Probably one of the more unique diversion activities that we did was we assisted a single father who had 2 children in his care, and he had a voucher, but his unit was abated due to a failed inspection. And the unit failed inspection due to cleanliness and clutter on the client's part. But Ann Arbor Housing Commission said, if his unit passes inspection, he'll get the voucher back, plus we'll retroactively go back and pay for all the months that haven't been paid for when the unit was in abatement. And so we figured out that the client had a disabling condition that was, not allowing him to take care of the clutter and the cleanliness. And so we paid for a trauma-informed cleaning company to come in and remove the clutter, clean the unit. And ultimately it passed inspection. Plus he got his voucher back, and all the past month's rent were paid. And we were also able to connect him through to a service with ongoing case management to ensure that he had supports moving forward so it didn't happen again. So just thinking outside the box, getting creative, and it was like under $2,000, that entire diversion. So yeah. Next slide, please. And why do we practice diversion? It's trauma informed, so it's less trauma. And at the end of the day, households want permanent housing, no matter how nice, clean the shelters are. And we know that ours are in Washtenaw County. At the end of the day, households want housing of their own. It's also much more cost effective for communities and shelter. I can't remember the cost of sheltering a family in Washtenaw County. I don't know it off the top of my head, but the average cost of diversion right now is around $1,200 per household, which is very cost efficient. Next slide, please. And here's my contact information. So many of you know me, have worked with me in the past. You know that I love to talk, could talk to a wall probably. I love to collaborate with community partners, work together with you. I like to problem solve. I'm never going to say I don't know or no to a question that you have. I'm always going to find you the answer. So even if I don't know it, I'm going to find someone that does. So please feel free. It's my cell phone that's on the slide and my email. You can reach out to me anytime with questions, concerns. I'm always happy to chat. And what questions do you have for me? If it's none, that must mean I did a really good job.
There must be questions. Feel free to unmute, throw one in the chat if you want. Well, Kara, I wish you were at my new orientation, new member orientation this morning, because there were a lot of housing questions. I did invite them to this meeting, so maybe they were here and you answered their questions.
Yeah, you guys, you know, you can call me anytime. So if there's something that comes up, you know, please feel free to reach out. I'm always available. I mean that. I'm not one of those people that says call me and then doesn't answer my phone. Like I will gladly talk through any housing situation. I think a question that comes up for us a lot, and maybe for you a lot, Stacey, is why are we the only ones that have access to the rental funds through Barrier Busters? That's a question I get asked frequently. That's as a community, HUD requires us to have a coordinated entry system so that there is one point of entry for all housing and homelessness needs. So that this ensures that there's equal access to funds and that things are streamlined. Also, my staff has a lot of training, a lot training on tenant landlord law. They're all very experienced. All of them came from the SARA program, so they're used to looking through ledgers and seeing if there are issues. And there's a lot of documentation that goes into rental assistance. It's not just the client says they owe $1,200. It's a lot of crossing T's, dotting I's. So
I have a question.
Yeah. Hi, Nathan.
Hi, and it's great to see you, by the way.
Great to see you.
So when you talk about the family assessment and connection to the CHIP list, does that mean that families are also undergoing VI SPDATs as well?
That does mean that, yes.
Great, that's really helpful. Just to have another organization able to do that is super helpful. Thank you.
Yeah. And if you aren't familiar with the VI SPDAT, it stands for the Vulnerability Index Service Prioritization Decision Assistance Tool. It's a mouthful. It's an assessment tool that we're required by the state of Michigan to use for any homeless assessment, whether it be individuals or families. It's a rather imperfect tool. You could do your research on it if you would like to later on and read all about the flaws, but as of right now, we're still required to use it.
My follow-up question to that would be, would you accept VI SPDATs done by other agencies? Like, for example, if we were able to connect a family to PATH first, or if the head of the household was connected to PATH, could we then send you that VI SPDAT in the hopes to try to move things along as far as the assessment?
Yeah, we would accept a VI. Well, see, I don't know if my question would be, do they ever administer the family version? Because the family's version is different than the individual's. The family version is many more questions. It's like 10 more questions than the individual. So like, yes, we would trust PATH to do it, but we've never had it happen where a family's come to us and already had it done.
Got it. So just as long as it's the family version of the VI SPDAT, that gives space for it to be accepted. Okay,
Yeah,
perfect.
yeah,
Thank you.
but our appointment times for family assessments are super fast, sometimes same day. So I like right now, I wouldn't feel like there was a need unless they just happen to come across a family and do it anyway, because we're just doing those appointments so quickly.
That's great
And
to
yes,
hear.
like
Thank you.
Joanna said, sorry, like Joanna said in the comments, anyone who's in need of these services should call the Hawk Call Center, not SOS directly.
Okay, any more questions? I really appreciate it. Thank you, Kira, for being here. And just a shout out too that for kind of more of that comprehensive information, if you were to go, if anyone was interested, if you go back a few months ago, we had Amanda from the Hawk Call Center present, and she gave her pieces of the Hawk process and that access and that information. So you can go back to an old recording. I'm sure we'll have her on again too. But for now, if you wanted to know a little bit more about the Hawk, you can go back to a previous Barrier Buster meeting, which can be found on our website. Crystal had a question. Do you see that, Kara?
It was so it was a question regarding one of the earlier slides, but I did have to step away briefly for a client, and I cannot remember which slide it was and what it was pertaining to. So is there a way you guys could share the presentation and then maybe I can go back through and then reach out to you directly, Kira, when I remember what my question was?
Sure. Yeah.
Thank
Do you
you.
remember if it was about like family assessments or diversion or prevention?
I think it was about this.
Yeah, we can share
It
it.
was
And
one
if
of the
it,
first few slides. I remember that much. And then they totally threw me off because I had to step away to help a client with something. So yeah, but I can reach out later. I don't want to hold the meeting up. So I can definitely look through the slides later and I'm sure that'll, refresh my memory.
sure.
I put these slides out on the Barrier Buster website. So, and I'll send an announcement when they're there. I'll put that out there to the listserv. And then the slides will be there and this recording.
Awesome. Thank you. And great job, Kara, by the way.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, everyone.
Yeah, thank you very much. Okay, I'm going to move back to the agenda and give just a brief update on our Barrier Buster funding, and I can be available for any questions that you all might have for Barrier Busters. So just a quick update. Nothing has really shifted and changed from our previous meeting. We are still very, very limited on our funding. This is what we are still looking at today. Washtenaw County, our allocation will be June 2nd on that Monday. So feel free to get in you can draft. If you put in requests, you can make those drafts, go back to it, submit it on Monday morning. We are running out of funds within hours. That's so unfortunate. So get them in early and know some of maybe if it's helpful, I could share some of the criteria I look at when I'm approving requests, and that is looking for those that are in shut-off, already in shut-off. Those that are mothers that have children in the household, I'm going to look to find the most critical cases, and I'm going to apply the funds to those first, and then from there go down. Also knowing that every single request is critical and important to everyone. But we are just limited on funds. And so I really want to try to target those that are in the most severe crisis. So that'll be June 2nd. We'll have this allocation distributed then. If you do have the Ann Arbor water utility, that one is rolling. So that one is always open. So if you have an Ann Arbor City resident with this water utility, you can submit a request. That we have an arrangement with them, so that one doesn't pull from our dollars, our funding dollars. It comes in a different direction. It has a different funding funding source for that one. And then as now we've had Kara explain, but this is also all housing goes through Hawk and SOS pipeline. Any questions I can help answer for this? Welcome to unmute. I'll put it in the chat. All right, while you're thinking of your questions, I'll also mention that remember that in July, we take our community break, our meeting, or this meeting is on break for our summer holiday. So we won't be meeting in July. So next month in June, I believe it's June 25th, and then again in August. If your agency hasn't presented recently in the last year, and you do have some information to share with us, please be in touch with me and we'll get you on the schedule to do a presentation for all of us. And what else? I'm trying to think if there was anything else. There's something more on the personal note that I wanted to throw out there to those of you who email me and that we work together through Barrier Busters. I am going to have a name change and an email change soon, probably in the next week or two. So just as an FYI, if you see my last name is turning to Steele. And so Poncher will be kind of there in parentheses for a while, but then it'll probably drop off, but my email will change. So just so you know, it's still me. All right, so I am going to sit and be available here if you all want, or if anyone wants to stick around to ask about anything coming up or anything in the past about Barrier Busters. But otherwise, thank you all for being here, and you may step out if you're ready to go. And I will see everyone in June.
Thanks so much.
Yep. Thanks, Nathan. It's always good to see you.
Great to see you. Take care.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Hi. Bye. Thank you.
I did have a quick question. I know
You bet.
someone had emailed me about a training for, I can't remember what.
Did I have you on my list for today? I'm gonna
I
stop
think
sharing.
that's what I was gonna check because I don't remember what the date was for that training. I can double check my calendar, but I know we had emailed about it, I think like a month or so ago.
Did you, let's see. I feel like I saw your name on my list today.
Yeah. And I
Crystal
want to say it was for
Stewart. I do have
the
you here.
eviction prevention because I already have access in terms of, or actually it might have been for the new process of
I
applying.
was thinking for requests, the new
Yeah,
request.
although I've already done a couple and I have to do one today as well as one next week, but I think there was still like a training surrounding like some of the new processing.
Yeah, I have you accessed already into our portal. So yeah, what is it? So maybe tell me again what it is that you're looking to do. You want to put in
Well,
a
it wasn't
request
for
for
me.
Barrier
I
Busters?
think whoever emailed me had suggested it, because there
It was
was,
probably me.
yeah, but I feel like it was
Okay.
for something else, not necessarily the request. I want to say it was like not for utility requests. I have to find the email, but I think it was more so regarding like maybe eviction prevention requests. Let me see if I can find the email.
Well, I wouldn't, I couldn't speak to, and I don't really do, that would be Kara Painter, who we just saw. That would be her SOS organization doing the eviction prevention. So that wouldn't come from me.
Let's see, I'm looking back
I
through.
would do, for me, it would be giving you access to the portal, which you have, and I can answer any of the Barrier Buster in general, Barrier Buster questions.
Yeah, I see the one from you, which was for the tutorial
Yes.
YouTube. So I did all of that. So yeah, I don't remember what it was for, but I feel like there was like a thing where I had to sign up for a training for
Yes,
something.
I did see you on my list today, and I did think you've already been through it, but
Yeah.
you don't know. Let me see if I can pull up some emails too to get kind of
Okay.
reacquainted with the communications we've had.
Crystal?
Yep, I got you set up just a bit ago. Wait, no. I think you were copied on the information. That's right. Here we go. That's not it. And the tutorial for the new system. Yeah, it was just about getting you access for the Barrier Buster or for the portal. And then I sent you the tutorial.
Okay, so then I'm all set then. It wasn't anything else except
Yeah,
for
no, you're all set. Yep. And if
or
you have any questions, any issues with the portal, just email me again and we'll work together. We'll work
awesome.
together on getting that figured out. But I don't think you need to attend another training unless you want it.
Okay. Yeah, because I thought it was something on my calendar for a training, but okay, that sounds good.
You showed, I'm not sure how, but you showed up on my list. So you probably got another email from me like, do this training. But I sent that to everybody on the list.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
So maybe that's what you're thinking. Well, I think there's something, but you've already done it. So you don't need to do it
And when
again
was
unless you
that one
want.
for? The one that you would have emailed about? It was for today.
That one was for today, this morning at 11, and that one was that was to learn about the program and to get portal access to
Okay, gotcha. So I'm
um
good then. Okay. All right,
yeah.
cool. Awesome. Well, thank you so much
Yes, good to have you here.
as well. And I'll be putting in a request, like I said, later on today. I meet with a client in about an hour and a half. So
Okay, so then let me ask you, as this client, because we're very we don't really have any funding, is it are they a resident of City of Ann Arbor?
they are, yep. And it's a single mom with 4 school-aged kiddos. Yep. And it's
Okay.
to e-bill. So
I have to look. I have to actually look because I think that we might be out of funds, depending on the amount of go ahead and put it in. Depending on the amount of the request, I might not be able to fill it just yet.
okay.
Because I keep saying City of Ann Arbor, everybody's coming in to tap into that, and we are running
Okay.
out. So I think we only have a few $100s left in that account.
Okay, because I think she has a shut off that's set for, I believe, this Sunday. Or
Okay.
yeah.
So that might be the opportunity that we, do you have access to DTE Aura? You're going to want to maybe put a hold on
That's
that.
what it was. I didn't DT, or I think that's what I needed access to.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll email you that. I will go into after this meeting, I'll go in and do that and email you with, and make sure that you're set up with DTE Aura to do that.
Awesome. And then just an FYI, I'm out tomorrow and Friday. I have a procedure. So if you email it into the day today, I won't see it until Monday.
Okay. So if
Okay.
you put it in today, we'll see depending, but would it be, yeah, we'll talk. Let's talk again after this and make sure we get this. But that's good to know.
Okay, awesome. Sounds
Okay.
good. Thank
All
you.
right. Bye.
Bye-bye.
We'll talk soon. Hey, Grace. How would staff get back to the Barrier Buster listserv? By emailing me. And then I have to go and let our IT know to put them on, to put somebody on.
I believe Elizabeth's tried and has had issues trying to get back on the list.
Elizabeth? Okay, yeah, the listserv is not. Let's stop our recording.